Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. Supposedly, Lincoln was a Moor or of Moorish descent. But that has been altered from history. Lincoln said himself that he did not issue the Emancipation Proclamation because he wanted to end slavery. That was not the reason why he issued the Emancipation Proclamation. The Emancipation Proclamation was issued so that they could check the power of the South, because their economic power, due to their having of the slaves, was what was allowing them to rise to a higher economic superiority over the Union. And Lincoln said himself, if there's a way for me to check the power of the South without freeing the slaves, I would do so. Lincoln said that himself. He wrote that himself. I didn't make that up. Now, fast forward, slavery, Reconstruction. Let's skip all the way up to Malcolm X in the 1960s. Black Power era. America, United States. Malcolm X, after his journey as a commendable prophet, and ultimately through his ascension and transition to the realm of the ancestors, represented a black consciousness with the potential to galvanize people of melanated descent and heritage around the world. Marcus Garvey also represented that same Masonic energy. He was forced to go into exile and leave the United States and go to Jamaica. Forgive me for not going any further in depth into the historical record of Marcus Garvey, because I have not fully examined the entire historical record regarding Garvey, his movement. But I do know the effect that he had. He was a commendable prophet. He also told us that an African king would be crowned in the East, which was prophetic of our Majesty, King of Kings, Emperor of Ethiopia, Haile Selassie I. Praise Jah. Now, after Malcolm X was assassinated, the Black Panther Party was formed by Chairman Bobby Seale and active Minister of Defense Huey P. Newton. The Black Panther Party had the potential to galvanize not only people of melanated descent and heritage, but people of all ethnic backgrounds around the world globally on a global front against the powers that be. It was for that reason that the Black Panthers were dismantled and subject to counterintelligence, illegal counterintelligence, I might add, as well as political assassination by the United States government, in particular the FBI, as well as any other American government agencies who took part in the counterintelligence war against the Black Panthers. Some of the things they did: the police killing of Bobby Hutton, the third member of the Black Panther Party. I believe he was only 16 when he was shot down by police who told him to run and then shot him in his back. They murdered Fred Hampton, who possessed a black consciousness with the potential to galvanize melanated people. They shot him by raiding his home with multiple police officers armed with machine guns, fired through the apartment without any concern for who was inside, which included Fred Hampton's pregnant girlfriend. He died on the floor in his apartment in his drawers, shot down like a rabid dog by police on behalf of the counterintelligence program. A divide was created through counterintelligence between Huey P. Newton and Eldridge Cleaver, which eventually resulted in Eldridge Cleaver basically taking his own position or political perspective and viewpoint against the Panther Party, and eventually went into exile in Africa. Huey P. Newton, after an attempted murder by 2 police officers who responded in self-defense, was incarcerated and subject to cruel treatment and psychological torture, which resulted in a fracturing of his psyche. When Huey came out of prison, he then descended down into a dark path of destruction, which ultimately resulted in his demise. But all of those things were a result of the illegal counterintelligence war that was carried out against the Black Panthers by the American government. And also, the Kennedys sent military over to Africa. Many African leaders were killed at this time. Not only was black power prevalent in the United States, but also in Africa. Many African nations were rising up, claiming their dependence against the European powers that be. They were assassinated. The Kennedys, John F. Kennedy himself signed off on that. Martin Luther King, as we know, was assassinated, leader of the Civil Rights Movement. Malcolm X was assassinated. The Black Panther Party was dismantled. The political consciousness that was prevalent in the black cinema that began to appear during the early 70s was then transformed by Hollywood into what became blaxploitation. Movies like Superfly, where the melanated people depicted in the films were shown as pimps and prostitutes. So what did our people begin to do? They began to become pimps and prostitutes. Now, these things in combination with continuous and future counterintelligence are what resulted in our people's current distress. Now, fast forwarding past the Black Power movement, the dismantling of the Panther Party, the Italian Mafia, who was in collaboration with unknown parties, I'm not going to make any accusations, but crack didn't introduce itself into black communities at the beginning and dawn of the crack epidemic. Crack didn't appear out of a cloud of smoke. It didn't come from nowhere. The crack epidemic, as well as Ronald Reagan's war on drugs, the war on poverty, and the killing of our political leaders, the depicting of our black consciousness on film in a manner that did not uplift our people or push us towards progress or have a positive influence on our youth and our people at large in our communities, is the result of our current distress. Following the crack epidemic, the war on crime and the war on poverty, the music industry then capitalized on what would become gangster rap with the birth of NWA, Dr. Dre, The Chronic, Death Row Records. Gangster rap was used to promote a lifestyle that would result in death, destruction, and incarceration. Through popular culture, counterintelligence has been used to defeat us, demean us, steal, and strip from us our consciousness, and has caused us to conduct ourselves in a manner that makes it appear that we have chosen this for ourselves and that we have brought this destiny down upon ourselves. But I ask this, naysayers, if your heroes, leaders, and influences to your people, your communities, and your culture at large were killed, disenfranchised, and destroyed before your very eyes, and your communities were broken, your homes were broken, and an industrial complex that incarcerated your people was put into effect, where the fuck would you be? In a state of distress. So I say this, stay devious. And this why we pissed off, nigga. Black power. Charge the motherfucking castle, nigga. Kush Hotep.